Commission Outstanding Professional of the Year Award, and the 2013 Outstanding Filipino Award, the 2015 Phileas Geoscience Medal of the European Geosciences Union, and the 2020 Start Network Changemaker Award. Without further ado, I am handing off the spotlight to Dr. Lagmay for his presentation.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Marcus, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, let me share my screen. So, okay. How do I? It's different. I can't. Microsoft PowerPoint. In just a minute. It's a different type of menu. Desktop does not appear. Just a minute. I'm having difficulty because it's a different type of menu. Just a minute. Maybe it's this one. I hope it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. All right. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir, we can see your presentation.
I have to stop the others. Okay, okay. Let's put this down. Okay, there you go. The title now appears. The role of universities in anticipatory planning, a systems approach to DRR and climate change actions. Basically, I'll be talking about what the UP Resilience Institute does, which represents the University of the Philippines system, to address the problems on natural hazard impacts and climate change to build resilient communities. We have established, or the UP Board of Regents has recently established, by recently I mean just in 2017, the UP Resilience Institute. And the UP Resilience Institute has its own website, which describes everything that we do. So I'd like to encourage everybody to visit this site at http://resilience.up.edu.ph. There's much that I can talk about the UP Resilience Institute as well as its core component, which is the UP NOAA Center. But I'd rather refer you to our website for you to discover everything that we are doing there. But in terms of the efforts of the university, with respect to climate change adaptation, helping out in building resilience, and trying to prevent and mitigate the impacts of natural hazards, we have actually established the UP Resilience Institute, and it has a special place in the university. It is under the Office of the President, owing to the large amount of work and maneuverability that is required to be able to meet its goals. Every time that there's a disaster, we need to be funded immediately. We need to act immediately, respond at the soonest possible time. For example, in the year, I cannot read what year this was, in 2018, during Ompong, the UP MMDA Vanguard sent search and rescue dogs that were trained within campus. There are several batches of dogs that are being trained for search and rescue in the UP Vanguard in coordination with the Metro Manila Development Authority. And then the following year, or sorry, it's in the same year, later that year, there was a big landslide where a team of specialists from the University of the Philippines was sent to help in the search and rescue efforts. And then they continued to work with the local government unit during the reconstruction and rehabilitation phase. The UP Resilience Institute also from time to time gets interviewed, or specialists get interviewed to shed light on disasters, trying to explain in layman's terms to the people what had happened, and so that they would understand better the phenomena, whatever hazard it was that impacted on the community. In 2019, a team of university staff or scientists went. It's not just from one campus, it was from all over the UP system, different campuses. They were sent from different fields as well. There were geologists, there were health experts, there were sociologists. They were all sent to help in the response for the Cotabato earthquake, which devastated that area in 2019. Here's a picture of the UP Geology team in consultation with the Vice Governor and the person in charge of the Incident Command System in Cotabato. During the 2020 eruption of Taal, we also did some crowdsourcing and later on did some field investigations, which led to the publication of 4 papers. Here shown are 2. One is a crowdsourced paper on the analysis of the 2020 Taal volcano tephra fault deposits, and another about the hazardous base surges of Taal's 2020 eruption. Also in 2020, but the investigations were made later. Some students investigated the earthquake in Masbate and submitted a paper which got good reviews, by the way, and is soon going to be published, about the magnitude 6.6 Masbate earthquake. In, I don't know what year this was, I think this was in 2021, Typhoon Odette. There were really strong winds. There was rapid intensification of the typhoon as it approached the landmass of the Philippines, and everybody was, a lot of people were caught by surprise because the impacts were underestimated. And the very strong winds actually caused a disaster for many communities in the Central Philippines region. The UP system helped during the response. UP Resilience Institute and the SOS Attitude completed their mission to provide emergency shelter in the island municipalities of President Carlos P. Garcia in Bohol. We also helped those in the southern part of Cebu and another island near the southern part of Cebu. More recently, in 2022, we investigated a year after the landslide that happened in Abuyog, Leyte. That landslide was huge and it reached the sea. And upon reaching the sea, it generated a landslide tsunami that caused the deaths of more than 100 people. The people fled from the cascading mass of earth from the mountains, thinking that the sea would be a safe place. But as they ran towards the sea, the landslide actually overran them and reached the sea first, generating a tsunami that killed most of the people in Abuyog, Leyte. The most recent one, I believe, was the response efforts or the investigations that we did for Kusyong landslide, trying to shed light on what happened, making use of satellite imagery and available simulations and models to help explain what killed the people in a resettlement area in Kusyong down in Mindanao, which is the southernmost island of Mindanao, of the Philippines, which is not often hit by typhoons. Oh, this is the latest, the magnitude 7.3 Abra earthquake, wherein the UP system provided assistance in terms of trying to establish or trying to measure the stability of structures or houses upon the request of the local government units. Needless to say, those who assess the houses were structural engineers. In all of these response efforts during disasters, we try to gain as much insight into what led to the disaster, trying to learn the lessons that led to the disaster, taking down notes about the mistakes that were made, not to blame anybody, but really to try to document all of these lessons in order for us not to repeat them. And based on our analysis, if we just follow these recommendations, these lessons, there's a lot of lives that can be saved. So again, I'd like to refer the audience to our website, resilience.up.edu.ph, so that you can review the list of publications that we have done since we started our efforts in 2012, when we were still the Project NOAA. We were called the Project NOAA. It was a very big investment by government, and then later on was adopted by the University of the Philippines through a board resolution of the Board of Regents. So now the NOAA program is under the UP Resilience Institute as its core component. When we look back at what we have been doing in terms of response efforts and documenting the lessons learned from disasters, actually didn't just start in 2012. The UP efforts, when there are disasters, actually started much earlier. It started, if I remember correctly, as far back as 1990 during the earthquake in Central Luzon, which was a very big earthquake, which was followed by the 1991 Pinatubo eruption. And there were a lot of faculty members and scientists who participated, who took part in the response efforts to help other Filipinos, or to help our brothers. And we learned that it is not just the response and trying to publish articles that academics can do. We have found out that academics or people or scientists in the universities can go beyond the research and participating in response efforts actions. They can actually take part in not just the response, but also planning communities, helping the local government units plan their communities for better prevention and mitigation of hazards, for better climate change adaptation, and also during the recovery and reconstruction phase of a disaster. Now, we have also realized that there are shared concerns between disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. And because of this realization, we have embarked on helping local government units in their plans. Like, for example, helping them out craft their local comprehensive land use plan, local disaster risk reduction management plans, climate and disaster risk assessment, their local climate change action plans. I'm not sure if I said that already, sectoral plans, and so on. And the university has a lot of experts in those fields to help the local government units. And using a systems thinking approach, wherein we realize that everything is integrated and everything interacts with each other, including human systems, natural systems, ecosystems, food systems, farming systems, energy, water, legal, and even political systems. We have to make an approach that would have better impact or stronger impact, stronger than just efforts being in the response phase and publishing. We also recognize that all of these systems like water, population, poverty, health, water, food, energy, and policy, it comprises a nexus. And all of these are interrelated, like the climate has an impact on water and vice versa, and so on. As examples, you see here a diagram emphasizing what I am talking about. And in terms of ecosystems-based approaches to climate change adaptation, we find that it actually involves a wide range of ecosystem management activities to increase the resilience and reduce the vulnerability of people and the environment to climate change. You can see that climate change puts pressure on ecosystems, and it has, in turn, an effect on the delivery of ecosystem services and vice versa. The effects actually impact on people. People need to increase their adaptive capacity to survive, and they respond with other adaptation measures that puts, in turn, pressure on the ecosystem. And when there is ecosystem adaptation, you try to improve the ecosystem services. You also help in mitigation of greenhouse gases, and it has an effect on our climate change problem. This is such a broad system that we're talking about, and we believe that in order to build true resilience, we must plan all of our cities and municipalities with a systems thinking approach, an ecosystems thinking approach, and that planning is key. Planning is key. Now, when you plan across all sectors. And when we talk about planning, these sectors include agriculture, coastal, water, health, forestry, biodiversity, environment, energy, education, tourism, infrastructure, settlement, and mining. We know that the biohazard SARS-CoV-2 affected all of these sectors when the pandemic was happening, and that our educational system, particularly the tourism, agriculture, were all affected. SARS-CoV-2, or what we know which translated into the COVID-19 pandemic, actually impacted a lot of these sectors, and we were all not prepared. The University of the Philippines has experts in all these sectors. That means that for other hazards, similar to the biohazard SARS-CoV-2, we can also use that to prepare across all sectors, because all of these sectors get impacted. And in the University of the Philippines system, we have 8 constituent units and more than 20 campuses with expertise in the fields of agriculture, coastal, water, health, health in UP Manila, environment in UP Los Baños, tourism in UP Diliman, settlement in UP Diliman, and so on. Plans, zoning ordinance, etc., because the expertise actually resides within the university, or most of the expertise resides in universities. In the Philippines, there are about 114 state universities and colleges. And there's a lot of experts in those places who can help. In the university, there's a lot of expertise to do flood models, to do probabilistic models, climate change scenarios, which are more intense or worse than the historical record. They can do that, and our work at the UP NOAA Center, which is the core component of the UP Resilience Institute, we have deployed all of these maps and made them available to empower people, communities, local government units, made them available as open source and open data, free of download, to the real meaning of open data, which are data sets that are available by bulk download without any conditions, and download of formats that are interchangeable digitally. And according to the latest UNDP report, the University of the Philippines datasets on flood maps for the entire country at high resolution, landslide hazard maps for the entire country at high resolution, as well as storm surge hazard maps for the entire country have been used by the local government units. And in fact, about 59.7%, according to the study, 59.7% of LGUs use our products. Now, the plan really, this is the grand plan. The grand plan is to capacitate all of the state universities and colleges, about 114 of them, with higher education institutions, to capacitate all of them. Maybe there will be, for example, 12 HEIs that will be trained based on what we have learned over the past decade, trying to help LGUs. And then they in turn would train another 9 SUCs, or state universities and colleges. And then these 9 SUCs would in turn be responsible for the planning, for the capacity building of the municipalities and cities in their region. Maybe around 15 each within their locality, to complete the plans of the entire Philippines, which is composed of about 1,643 or 34 cities and municipalities of the country. We have started that by training 25 SUCs in their LUDIP program, trying to capacitate everybody, trying to capacitate the SUCs in the formulation of their land use and development plans for their campus. As you know, campuses are big and they're communities by themselves. Sorry, my daughter is calling me. Okay, just a minute, please. Maya, pakitawagan si Amaya. Hello? Hello? Marcos, are you still there? Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir. We can.
Po, sir.
Okay, I can continue now. All right. Okay. So what does the university historically contributed to disaster risk reduction efforts of the country? So we took a look at the EMDAT, Disaster International Database, and we found out that based on that database, 1986 to 2022, we found that the average number of fatalities from 1986 to 2012, if you include Haiyan, the year 2013, the number of fatalities on average per year was around 1,000 to 1,250. And then from the graph, if you look at the right, you can see that there has been a significant decrease in the average number of fatalities starting 2014 up to 2022. So what happened during that time? Was it just Haiyan, or was it other things, or was it because of other things that caused that significant drop in the average number of fatalities per year? We also look at the losses in terms of infrastructure and agriculture for hydrometeorological hazards, and find that there has been not much improvement in terms of the losses. It's just the fatalities that have been addressed. And in terms of the counterfactual narrative, we could say that it is difficult to determine what could have happened during the period 2014 onwards, and also pinpoint exactly what caused the approximate 75% reduction in the average number of deaths per year. That's about 297 deaths per year from greater than 1,000 deaths per year during the period 1986 to 2013. And if we are to imagine a scenario with no interventions made, the average number of deaths would have remained above 1,000 fatalities per year based on counterfactual evidence derived from the EM.DAT records prior to 2014. And if the counterfactual narrative is true, then more than 6,750 lives were saved in the last 9 years. Now, if we look at the major events and policies in Philippine CCA-DRR efforts, we find these main events or main policies. In 2004, there was this National Hazards Mapping Program, CSCAN, mapping the entire Philippines at 1:50,000 resolution. And then later on, it was improved to higher resolution hazard maps. And then there was the Climate Change Act in 2009. There was the DRRM Act in 2010, known as the RA 10129. And then in 2012, there was the launch of the flagship program of government for DRR, which made use of what we call as operational research. And it's the reason why NOAA was named, and NOAA was named after that. NOAA stands for Nationwide Operational Assessment of Hazards, which is actually operational research. The government then thought of making use of the academe to participate in the efforts of government with respect to disaster risk reduction. And they thought that operational research would help in the DRR efforts of the country, and it was touted as the flagship program of government. And then in 2014, there was the Pre-Disaster Risk Assessment, or PIDRA, which specified hazard-specific area focus and time-bound warnings for incoming threats. And that was born out of one of the projects of the Nationwide Operational Assessment of Hazards. In 2007, the NOAA program was defunded and adopted by the University of the Philippines. And in 2019, this is a very important policy, which is the National Climate Risk Management Framework. I cannot explain this further, but maybe in another talk, I can explain the relevance of the National Climate Risk Management Framework. But nonetheless, in all of the major efforts, I'd like to emphasize operational research, and I would like to describe it as a scientific approach to the solution of problems in the management of complex systems in a rapidly changing environment where objective lessons and insights from past experiences are sought to facilitate the implementation of more effective solutions. NOAA was an academic program, was a program that made heavy use of the expertise of scientists, engineers, and researchers from the University of the Philippines. And that was a 6.387 billion program. Some of them actually led to the establishment of the Philippine Space Agency and other big programs of the country related to DRR and climate change. It was actually the first non-overseas development assistance funded program of this scale. Again, it was a more than 6 billion peso project that was dedicated for disaster risk reduction efforts of the country and was headed by the academe. Now, the reason why I was emphasizing this is because if we actually get the expertise of the academe, the Philippines has got some examples of how the academe helped in disaster risk reduction efforts, and we plan to make it bigger. We hope that if we are able to demonstrate in the country that such efforts do work, if the academe is more embedded as operations research work in the disaster efforts of the country, and if we are able to demonstrate that it works, maybe we can be able to influence other countries to do that as well if they are not doing it as of current. I believe that that ends my talk. Thank you very much for listening. And that talk was about the role of the academe in disaster risk reduction and resilience building. Thank you very much. Back to you, Marcus.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lagmay, for that very, very interesting and informative presentation. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot about the role of universities in anticipatory planning and how the University of the Philippines has been helping to build more resilient communities. Your talk has enlightened us about how academics go beyond conducting research and response actions by participating in the operations of government to prevent disasters and helping communities plan development using the best knowledge available. I'm even more certain, however, that you have captured the interest of quite a few of our guests. At this point in time, we will be moving to the question and answer portion. So we will be opening the floor for any questions any of our attendees may have for Dr. Lagmay. So for our Q&A session, please use the Zoom reaction button to raise your hand and wait for the host, me, to call your name. Once your name is called, you may unmute your mic to speak. For those who would prefer it, we will also entertain questions sent to the chat box. Those watching via YouTube may also comment their questions below in the respective platform comment boxes. Due to limited time, we might not be able to accommodate all questions. You may, however, send them to the UPRI Facebook page as messages. These will be forwarded to Dr. Lagmay after this session. So we have already a few questions that have been coming into our chat box as Dr. Lagmay was giving his talk. So the first would be from Mr. Ben Van Wyk de Vries. The question he asked is, Dr. Lagmay, bayanihan, can you define it, please?
Well, bayanihan, the image of bayanihan in the Philippines is of people carrying a house. It's a hut. It's a nipa hut. It's not a cement house. Everybody carrying it and transferring that house to another place. Maybe because the family would like to move to a safer place, or maybe the family would like to move because of their own personal reasons. But the concept is that the community helps each other. So that kind of term has been retained in the language of the Filipinos, and it is used basically to help each other when Filipinos help each other. So that's the concept of bayanihan. It does not have to be just about moving houses, Filipinos helping each other. It can be bayanihan in any effort. Like, for example, during a disaster, when the academe helps out along with the private sector, with other stakeholders, with the government agencies, everybody helping out so that we can survive and we can have a better outcome of things.
That's right, sir. I completely agree with you in that our academics should have that bayanihan spirit to proactively pursue helping communities realize their vision for themselves, and also definitely planning well so that we can save more lives. We have another question from our chat box. This one is from Dustin Green. I'll read that for him. Good afternoon. I would like to ask a question. Based on your experience, what approaches have worked in applying outputs from the academe to communities? Is there a key to ensuring that academic outputs will become usable by communities? Sir Mohar, I think that's a very good question.
Yes. Okay. I would like to answer that by dividing two types of help. One on the national level and one at the local government level. Well, the first is the national government level. If we are to be successful in that, you have to be embedded in the operations of government. Like, for example, when we were doing the work at with NDRRMC, which this was the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, during the PIDRA, whenever there's a typhoon that was about to enter the Philippine area of responsibility, all agencies will talk. They will discuss about the risk and the possible impacts, and it included the academe. So that is very important. The Filipinos, the national government benefits from better discussions with more minds participating. And if that happens, then the benefits for the Filipinos is on a national scale. Now, when we do it for the local government units, we do it based on the requirements or the help that is needed by those who rule the community, who govern the community. We do not ask them for our services. We wait for them to come to us to seek for help, because we know that planning of the community with respect to the different types of plans, like comprehensive land use plans, the disaster risk reduction management plans, they can only be done if the local government unit is serious in those efforts, and if they are serious in wanting other people to help them, especially the academe. If they are not serious, it will not work. So those are two levels to ensure that the help of the academe would work in terms of how it is used for their governance and how it is used to build resilience in communities, including building resilience, doing adaptation efforts against climate change.
Thank you, Sir Mahar, for your answer to that question. I'd like to remind everybody that if you would like to voice out your questions for Dr. Lagmay, you may raise your hand on our Zoom and I'll be calling your name. So right now, I'd like to call Miss Trixie Del Mendo. I see you have your hand raised. You may now unmute yourself and ask Dr. Lagmay your question.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lagmay. So,
Hello.
thank you for your talk, and we really were able to see how big a role the academe plays in DRR. And I'd like just to ask a question regarding that part about where we will be able to cascade our knowledge to the different municipalities through the different SUCs in the Philippines. So I would just like to ask about your thoughts regarding this. Because from what I've seen, there are so many SUCs in the Philippines, and I was just wondering if you feel like they have like the same capacity to transmit the knowledge, or do you think that some SUCs are more ready than others? And I think just in terms of general readiness when it comes to generating and transmitting the RR knowledge. Thank you, sir.
So the question was, are the SUCs equal? I mean, are there
Yes,
others
sir.
that are more ready?
Equally ready
No,
and
no.
capable.
I think there are more. There are a lot of SUCs that are ready, but not all of them are ready. I would imagine that if I were to count, there would be about 30 state universities and colleges out of the 114 state universities of colleges that are quite well prepared for this type of thing. But everything starts from something. Maybe if we start now, it will grow, and then after a couple of years, it will become the trend that SUCs will be the ones trying to generate the knowledge for the community. That kind of knowledge is part of capacity, the capacity of the community to be able to become more resilient. After all of these research need to be localized, and the researchers that would be the ones doing it are the people from that local area. So I believe, I strongly believe that the academe has a very, very big role if we're to look at the systems thinking approach in trying to solve our problems about climate change and disaster risk reduction.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Miss Trixie, for your question. In relation to that, we have another interesting question in our chat box. Sir Mahar, what advice would you give to universities that are just starting to explore anticipatory planning as part of their strategic approach? It's a very interesting one, sir.
Advice
To
SUCs?
universities that are just starting to explore anticipatory planning.
Okay. Well, the first part is awareness. So once you become aware, you tend to become more engaged. You get inspired. If you get inspired, you try to search for more. And when you search for more, you get to understand better. And when you get to understand better, that's the path actually to starting everything like how we did it in the University of the Philippines. Everything starts from a seed. It's not automatically big. It has to start from something from somebody to initiate all of these efforts. But I believe that if we are able to make this initiative become successful, it will truly be a model for the entire world. It's not just for the Philippines, because I believe that the efforts or the knowledge that is housed within the universities are actually going to be very beneficial in terms of building resilient communities.
Thank you so much, sir. In connection to that also, and we have another anonymous question. They'd like to ask, how can universities collaborate with industry, government, and other stakeholders to enhance their anticipatory planning efforts? This is quite interesting because I remember you mentioned earlier that planning cuts across all sectors.
That's right. But I think the question was about how does the university collaborate with other stakeholders like the private sector. During the planning process for the community, like for example, for the comprehensive land use plan or whatever plan, the people or the stakeholders are gathered and asked what their vision of their community will be or is. So they are asked their vision, what they want their community to become, whether they want full-scale development or preserve the environment or whatever. Ultimately, it's the stakeholders, the people in the community who decides what they want to happen in their community. Now, if you have stakeholders during the consultations, during the crafting of all of these plans, all of their opinions, all of their inputs are taken into consideration. That includes people from the private sector, people from the local government agencies, people from the academe, the people from the local government unit, and everybody's consulted. So during that process of planning, everybody is collaborating already. And to me, that is a form of bayanihan. Bayanihan to get them to attain their vision, to attain their goals, to have development, to have economic growth, unhampered by disasters, so that they can attain the SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals.
All right, sir. We have one more question, and this one is from PRMSU. Shout out po sa inyo, sir. Armando Lorenzo Robles, what are your current capabilities and training programs for SUCs? That is an interesting question, sir.
Yes, I think I can answer that. Soon, we are going to offer micro-certificate courses. We will have talks like this, and then if you are able to attend a talk like this, you will be given a micro-certificate course. Not this talk, but in the future. Maybe it starts in December. And if you've attended, let's say, 100 talks like this or webinars like this, and you have 100 micro-certificates, you can compile all of them and see whether it qualifies for one subject. And if you have so many subjects that can qualify for a diploma, and then if there are more subjects that you have already acquired, then that may qualify into a professional master's or a master's with a thesis. These are programs that we're trying to build in the constituent units of the University of the Philippines campus. There's one at UPLB, and Dr. Van Vic de Vries is very much involved in that program, in that graduate program that we are trying to establish. Yeah, so please wait for further announcements on those micro certificates. If you attend a lot soon enough, before you know it, you'll have a master's degree. Thank you.
All right. We have another question, Sir Mahar. This one is from Mr. Ruben Gamala. Dr. Mahar, how can UP through UPRI reach out and engage other HEIs to the DRR-CCA initiative?
What other what?
Higher education institutions, HEIs, sir.
Oh, yeah. The instruction of the president of the University of the Philippines is to help out SUCs and higher education institutions. Those are the marching orders for us. And we have to do that because we as the national state university receives a large part of the funding in the higher education institute budget. So what we want to do is to collaborate more and capacitate more the state universities and colleges, sharing our resources. That includes the higher education institutions. And if we are able to do that, that is consistent with the talk that I gave to you, trying to get or capacitate the SUCs and higher education institutions to help the local government units and to help the communities in their localities.
Thank you, sir. We have another question from Mr. Ben Van Wyk de Vries. He says, Dr. Mahar, have you lost your resilience with technology?
I don't know what is meant by that, but I would like to answer no. We are still resilient, and we are actually using technologies to build better resilience, so to become more resilient.
Oh, we have another follow-up question from Mr. De Vries. It is very important that other institutions follow the UPRI and UPRI lead. I have some Mexicans here with me listening in France, others, and I think some sort of short handbook would be useful on how to engage. What do you think of that, sir?
Of course, handbooks are very, very useful. We will have to do that. We have a whole team, you included, to make some handbooks, some guides for others to follow. But as soon as we are able to get our act together and be able to do this in a regular way, we will already craft those so that others can benefit. As I said, we always try to publish the work that we do so that the communities or other communities, including the international communities, can benefit or learn from what we do here in the country.
And I can definitely say, sir, I agree with you. We at UPRI are ready to take on the challenges and the work that has to be done to build this resilience for our country. Another question we have in the chat box. This one reads, "Hi, Dr. Lagmay, I admire your work. How did you become a disaster scientist? Was it by choice? Is there advice you would like to give to people who wanted to pursue studies related to disasters?"
That's a tough question. Actually, I don't plan ahead. Sorry to say, but ever since I was a kid, I just go through the motions. It just so happens that I ended up taking up geology because of my peers. I got my bachelor's degree in geology. Eventually, I got my master's, again, because of my friends. My friends were there doing the same things as me. And then ended up doing PhD and doing work with Professor Ben Van Victivries. And everything else that happened actually was already in the Philippines. A lot of the science, the type of thinking, the method of thinking, and the use of technologies were applicable in other natural hazards, for other natural hazards and disasters. And as I employed all of those skills and expertise and technologies to trying to learn more about these phenomena, these natural hazards and disasters, trying to understand the lessons, I thought of calling myself as a disaster scientist. So there's no such thing as disaster science course. It's actually a field of specialization that you get into when you do a lot of work regarding that topic.
Thank you, sir. We have a couple participants who want to dig deeper into that. So I'll just be reading the next question. Hello po, Doc Mahar. Ano po ang pinaka-memorable na disaster na inyong na-experience? Paano nito nabago ang buhay at trabaho nyo? That's a deep dive, sir.
Yes. Actually, there are a lot of memorable disasters. Memorable. When I say memorable, they're painful. Because when I go to ground zero of the disaster, I see their faces. I count dead people and I see their faces. To me, they all look alike. And I know that all of them do not have voices anymore. And when I think about the work that I do, trying to find out the lessons, and I know that there can be something that can be done just by not repeating the same mistakes. I actually remember that there are people who have lost their voices. And that probably drives me to do the work that I do now. Because I know that they would have wanted somebody, or they would have wanted themselves to tell that, not to repeat the same mistake that they did. And if we are to repeat the same mistakes, that would be unfair to those who have died in past disasters. So I think that's the one of the most poignant things that I've experienced, looking at their faces and knowing that they don't have voices anymore.
All right, Sir Mahar, thank you so much for answering these questions. And thank you to everybody for all your questions and reactions. Due to limited time, however, we will proceed to the next segment of Resilience Live. For participants who were unable to ask their questions, you may send your questions through the UPRI Facebook page as messages, and we'll do our best to forward that to Dr. Lagmay to get those responses. So before we proceed, we would like to request everyone to turn on their webcams for a brief photo opportunity.
Hi everyone, I'm taking over from Marcos. Can I request everyone to turn on their cameras? Ayan. So we will do this in separate panels. Panel 1. Okay. Panel 2. Panel 3. And panel 4. Ayan, we're done. Thank you, everyone. I'm turning you over again to Marcos.
Thank you very much, April, for taking our photos for this episode. At this point in time, we now move on to the end of our webinar. Thank you once again to Dr. Lagmay for helping us understand how universities can play a bigger role in driving climate change action through participating in the planning of their local communities, keeping in mind that these plans cut across all sectors of society, from agriculture, tourism, forestry, biodiversity, industry, and others. Now more than ever, we understand that knowledge generated from academic institutions should be passed down to those on the ground for it to be translated into concrete actions. Once again, this webinar has been brought to you by the UP NOAA Center and UPRI in partnership with UNESCO International Geoscience Program. Resilience Live will be held every last Thursday of the month, so mark your calendars. The next session will be on October 26, so please stay tuned to the UPRI Facebook page for announcements on our next speaker and featured topic. Before we officially close this afternoon's webinar, please be reminded that participants will be issued a certificate of attendance once they have answered the evaluation form. You may find the link to the form in the chat box below and the QR code flashed on the screen now. Thank you once again, and see you
Hi,
all at the
Ben.
next session of Resilience Live. Once again, my name is Marcos Rosales, and it has been a pleasure being your host for the afternoon.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Marcus.
Okay. I was recording it.
Good afternoon to all participants. Please be advised that we will be closing the webinar in 15 minutes. Please make sure you have filled out the evaluation form. Thank you.